Today, I've come to a special place. I'm in a place where there's no smoggy smoke. I'm in a place where the corn can't grow. Today, I've come to Rocky Top, Tennessee. It's not just a place from a song, it really exists. I'm excited to walk around downtown, explore, and see what we can find. Looking closer at the mural here, they've got different pictures inside of the letters. Here they've got Neyland Stadium, UT Vols football field. Here's some miners in the sea, the railroad. Inside of the K, it looks like some sort of trail buggy or four-wheeler or side-by-side cart. And this is the bridge, possibly. And of course, our beautiful mountains inside of the word top. We're at Downtown Center on South Main Street, and we found Coal Creek Coffee. Let's go check it out. Here's their hours. Good, how are you?
Good.
Got some stickers here. Here's the menu. He's making my drink. I got a vanilla latte with a squirt of caramel. I got it iced today since it's warming up outside. Last time we were here, I got the same thing, but I got it hot, and it was great. Just got my drink. Gonna give it a try. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Finished my latte. Gonna go and explore the town. Just finished coffee at Coal Creek Coffee, and just down the road on Main Street here there is the Coal Creek Miners Museum down this way. Let's go check it out. This is the museum now open. The main entrance of the Miners Museum. Let's go check it out. Here are the business hours. Coal Creek Miners Museum.
thousands of commuters cross the Clinch River on I-75 north of Knoxville each day without realizing that a war and two mine disasters killed hundreds of miners near there over a century ago. Green signs on the interstate mark that town as Rocky Top, but gray headstones of those dead miners still call it Coal Creek.
For such a small community, such a small area, there's more history per square mile in Coal Creek than any place I have seen in my life. And it wasn't just coal mining related, it was so much more.
Coal Creek even has a connection to the outlaw Jesse James. Henry Baker, who rode with the James gang, was later arrested in Tennessee and sentenced to hard labor in the mines of Coal Creek. That was until 1891, when Coal Creek miners captured him and his fellow convicts so they could be sent to Knoxville with a message that convicts would no longer be allowed to take jobs from free miners. In 1910, the U.S. Bureau of Mines was created and got its first test when the Cross Mountain Mine exploded in Briceville on December the 9th, 1911. Although 84 miners died, 5 were rescued, marking the first use of modern self-contained breathing apparatus in mine rescue and the first occasion in which canaries had been carried into the mines to warn of toxic fumes. Does the Tennessee Department of Education recognize the importance of the Coal Creek labor saga? There is no doubt, because it is now part of the state's education curriculum. You can validate his words by supporting the Coal Creek Miners Museum and visiting historic sites where the miners lived and died. Come see the cannon on Militia Hill following Coal Creek, or read the farewell messages on headstones of the miners who wrote them. Who knows? You might come face to face with the ghost of miner Dick Drummond.
What is unique about the Coal Creek Miners Museum is proximity to Coal Creek history. If you go to another museum, you might be able to see an artifact, but you can't then leave the museum and travel a few miles and see where that artifact came from. You can do that in Coal Creek.
Everything kind of started after the Civil War. 1869 was when Coal Creek really sprung up, and it swelled to over 4,000 residents, which was actually the biggest city in Anderson County at the time. And soon after that, you could see the Beech Grove mine. That was when that really started to appear. So that was kind of one of the first mines that had really blossomed in the area. And with that came a lot of hardworking miners. So the song 16 Tons is kind of, this is my little favorite section right here. The miners were expected to bring in 16 tons, and they were paid according to the tonnage of coal that they had gotten. So rather than hours worked, the more coal that they could mine, the better they were paid. And unfortunately, as the song goes, another day older and deeper in debt. Most of the miners were paid in scrip, which you could see down here. And those were forms and papers that you could only use at the company store. And the company store, unfortunately, upcharged everything about 20%. So you earned your money and then put it right back into the coal company. And with that, one of the other issues was people were running so low on money that they had to take out loans from the coal company. So as you continue to take out more money, you were putting it right back in. And so that did cause some issues. As more miners were working and they had to continue weighing the coal, that was when the coal company said, you know what, you need to trust us to weigh your coal. But turns out that the miners were actually being short-charged. The coal companies were typically estimating lower than what they were actually bringing in so they could convince the miners to work more. In addition to that, in 1876 was the first introduction of convicts into the mines. And as you can see on this train here, it is packed full of convicts that were coming in from Nashville. And unfortunately, the living conditions were so terrible that a lot of the convicts actually died on the way here. That didn't include the number of deaths that happened in the mines. With that, it was taking away a lot of jobs from the miners, and again, as the miners were being short-charged for their tonnage, they began to protest, they began to riot. So about 1891 was the first striking back that the miners had, and this happened a couple of times. Eventually, they really tried to get the convicts out of there and tried to stand up for themselves, but that was when Governor Buchanan had returned all the convicts back to the area. So that's when we have the final act. After sending in militia to try and break apart the rebellion, finally the miners had to surrender. And then we have our mine over here. And so this was kind of the focal point. This was the Coal Creek mining disaster. So a few years later, in 1902, was when the mine explosion had happened. Over 200 men and boys were in the mines when it happened, just minutes after they had started their day. And a lot of the people that were working in there were unaccounted for, because as men were required to bring in certain amounts of tonnage in their coal, they would have their young sons, 7, 8, 10 years old, coming in and working in the mines.
Wow.
So the death toll was around 200. The number kind of varies because, as you can see, there were so many coffins that had to be brought in, so many bodies that had to be identified, that it eventually got to the point that coffin makers had to build coffins on site.
Oh, wow.
And so as they were pulling out remains, they also came across many letters and slabs that had letters to their departed. Because unfortunately with that explosion, not everyone died instantly. There were about 26 men, I believe, that did survive and kind of hold up and just had to wait. So you can see we do have some of these letters, like the infamous one from Mr. Bowell, "Oh God, for one more breath." The miners were trapped. They had to just wait for someone to come save them because the methane levels were increasing, the oxygen was decreasing, not to mention not knowing how stable the air might be with all the coal particles and the gases. This unfortunately left all of the women in town with no husbands. Many had lost their sons, and left behind here is a family in mourning. So you can see how large that family was. The families were paid out about $300 for each certified death, which is about $10,000 today.
Wow.
So, and that only counted the certified deaths. That didn't include the young children that weren't on the payroll. And as we continue here, you can see that we have a mourning quilt, which was, that was typically given for any of the miners that had suffered losses. It was given to their families. But in a circumstance like this where there were so many, it was really just a list of all the families in town that just kind of wanted to send their regards.
These are the names of the miners or the families?
I believe it is the families that were left over.
Sure.
With each bereaved widow or mother producing a patch with their loved one's name, so it must have been the miners. So not too long after, just 9 years later, was the Cross Mountain mine explosion and disaster. Now this one was another large tragedy. 84 men died, but we had new techniques. After the first mine explosion in Coal Creek, it kicked off a lot of mine safety, and so you could see that we have a lot of PPE or protection equipment for the miners. So because we had some of these as our resources, 5 men were brought out alive. So that was around the time that we saw the introduction of the safety lamps, which as methane gas increased, the flame grew larger. So it was a good visual indicator for any of the miners, as well as if it lowered, then that meant that the oxygen levels were too low, and again, that they needed to get out. So with that, they did have these breathing apparatuses that I believe came from, I want to say Germany, but there were these breathing apparatuses, and those provided just a few minutes of oxygen. Both of them probably an hour or less. Now, this breathing apparatus that they had was done with a chemical reaction. So you would breathe the air in, the chemical reaction would happen, and then you'd breathe that air back in, and that chemical reaction made the air over 100 degrees. So it got so hot and the equipment was so heavy that many times the masks would fuse to your face. It would melt on.
Wow.
And over time, it did improve. The equipment improved, and different indicators were used. So that was when you started seeing the canaries, you saw mice being used, and that was, again, another visual indicator of the oxygen levels and the conditions in the mine. Because as long as the canary was singing, you'd be fine.
One ring stop, 2 rings start, 3 rings reverse.
So I believe that must be from the train that had come in that was bringing the convicts, shipping out the coal. I assume that's what that must be.
Some bullet holes here.
And one of the things that I thought was really fascinating is, as you can see in these pictures here, oftentimes the miners weren't standing upright in these mines. You kind of see this stereotypical mine where you can just walk straight in, but oftentimes the miners were stuck bent over, laying down the majority of the time.
Wow.
And with that, we kind of get over here into some of the caps and the helmets that the miners had to wear to illuminate everything. So you can see here is an oil lamp cap that contained a container of oil with a wick that you would set on fire, and that would be one of your forms of illumination. Of course, that could be really dangerous, and so we did have the discovery of the Edison lamp, which was battery powered, but the batteries leaked battery acid because the primary warning written on those was to not tip it upside down or lay it sideways. The miners were laying on their sides and on their backs most of the time, so it would burn a lot of the miners with the acid. So you can see we have a couple different kinds of the helmets here.
Different lamps. Here's some connected to the packs.
And then here we have a topographical map of the area. You can see that we are located right here. And that's kind of the heart of the Coal Creek program and what we're trying to teach everyone about. But as you can see, this area carries over for miles. And we actually have maps that visitors can take home that you can drive this tour and kind of see all these really interesting areas. Some of them are on private property, so you might have to stop just short, but a lot of these areas still can be explored.
Very neat. list of the numbered items here.
And then there's also
This is Henry Howard Wiley. He's the one who founded the mine. Here we've got some fuse, blasting cap, some dynamite. And they would take a drill similar to this one, make a hole in the rock, pack it with the dynamite and the blasting cap, and then blow it out to get to the coal. Looks like this guy is checking to make sure that there's not going to be a collapse. Here's some more of the headgear. One of the hard helmets. Lights. Which is a big step up from these soft caps with an oil lamp that was on fire above your head. Probably didn't give you much light towards your feet or where you were digging or looking. It was very hard to see. Here's a set of knee pads that a miner would have to use. He had to get on the ground to use his pick or shovel out some coal or scrape or something. This is called a swingle tree. It's used for a horse or a mule to balance the weight that it was pulling. At a central point here to pull from two different sides. Here's a picture of some of the miners and a doctor that's working on one of the animals. The companies would hire a doctor to take care of the miners, and they also had to take care of the horses and mules as well. Did double duty. I think that the mules were blind in one eye. They always had one eye to the light and one eye to the dark. And when they would bring stuff in and out, they used to have to change the patches that they used. Here's a jug and a water container with a spoon for drinking and serving, because they had to have water down in the mines to drink and stay hydrated. Here's a reenactment that they have set up of what it was like for the miners waiting to be rescued or hoping to be rescued. This guy's writing a letter to his family or anyone that could find it. Look how young this child is. They worked in the mines at that age back then. If they didn't have any paper or ink to write with, they would scratch on whatever rock tablets they could. Wow. This is a dress that was made from flour sacks. A lot of times they had to make things from sacks that they bought their food in because it was too costly for a lot of families to buy fabric at the store to make a dress. So the companies that sold these would put patterns on them because they knew that people would make clothing out of them. This piece of coal has a fossilized pattern on top. It said that it came from Cross Mountain, Tennessee. Here's another fossilization pattern on this piece of coal. You've got an exhibit in the middle. It says name that coal. And they have different kinds of coal here. And then above those, they have 4 different choices. There's an old first aid kit, compresses, bandages, burn treatments, tourniquet, ammonia inhalants, and splints in case of emergency. Here's another picture of the cannon on Militia Hill. Here's some different script that they used for payment. These were special coins and money denominations they would only let you use. In their stores. Down here there's some scatter tags. Said they were mixed in to the deliveries of coal so that you would know your source. Interesting. In this case, we've got different rocks and fossils from the area. Here's some unakite. That's from Unicoi, Tennessee. They even have some items for sale. Here's some Rocky Top t-shirts. Here's some rocks. Different magnets. These look like handcrafted coal carvings. Coal bucket. Got some Coal Creek Miners Museum shirts here. Here's one of the Rocky Top shirts. They've got some books for sale. Just outside of the museum, they've got a sign here that says Tennessee Music Pathways. It's about Dean Dillon. Says that he was a songwriter, performer from here, and eventually went to Nashville. Dean Dillon. Interesting. My next stop is the Coal Creek General Store. Old-timey general store here. Said they feature local products, cold drinks, candy, bologna sandwich, toys, and more. Let's check it out. Hello. They sell lots of old-timey taffy. Candies. Goo Goo Clusters. It's a Tennessee favorite. We've got some candy cigarettes. I remember those from when I was a kid. Fresh fudge here. Bath bombs. They got all kinds of old bubble gum. Old-timey candy. Lots and lots of sodas. All the old-timey glass bottle stuff. Great Bat, Knee High. I've never seen some of these. Lots of items. Here's some tote bags. One says Norris Dam. It's not far from here. This one's one for the store itself. Drink mixes. Giant lollipops. Soaps and candles. There's some beard products. Here we've got some seasonings and sauces. Jelly, jam, some candies, more fudge. Here there's some homemade bread. Wow. Honey, local honey. Tomatoes and other canned items. Got some handmade signs. They've even got bundles of firewood. Giant cast iron skillet if you need to do some cooking. Wow, here's a case of knives. Here's some old-fashioned stick candy. Looks like they've got about every color and flavor available. Wow. Here's a section with some toys. They've got wax lips, some chocolate dipped insects. Ooh. If you're adventurous. Down here we've got some pickup sticks, paddle ball, rubber chicken, some more stuff. Rubber band guns. These are cool. Had one when I was younger. It's a larger one. And here's some raccoon hats. If you know who was famous for wearing the coonskin hat, put it in the comments below. Here's a pink one. We have lots of moon pies here. They've got a couple different flavors. They've got banana, chocolate. We've got the vanilla here. There's an orange orange one down here. I don't know what that is. Let's look at it. Pumpkin spice. It's probably good. They've got some hats and shirts here for the general store. There it is. We've got some t-shirts here for the store. This one's in tie-dye. Sure. Here's another tie-dye. I survived the coal miner's bologna sandwich. What's the coal miner's bologna sandwich?
Big cut bologna. It's a big cut piece of bologna.
Can I get one?
You absolutely can.
Sounds delicious.
Yes. It's what we're known for.
The famous coal miner's bologna sandwich. Got some fresh meat in the case here. Some ground beef. The old signs, 7-Up, BF Goodrich. They're actually for sale. They have a section here for dog and pet treats. This is dog peanut butter. I guess you squirt it out. It's got a squeeze tube for your pet. Got a bunch of different kinds of jerky. Elk, buffalo, venison. They've got meat sticks. All different kinds. Wild boar. Sounds good. I've had the Wild Bill's soda. I think today I'm gonna try a different one. I'm gonna try this Shirley Temple.
I didn't want to go flying. There you go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm back in the car. They don't have anywhere to eat inside of the general store, so I came back to the car to eat. I got my Saranac Shirley Temple. Very bright, don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna try it, see how it is. It's delicious. Let's try this bologna sandwich. Wow. Give me some napkins. And here it is. The Coal Miners Bologna Sandwich. I'm going to use the bag that it came in to make a little tray in my lap. Alright, let's open it up. There it is. Open it up. Looks really good. I got it with lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, mustard, cheese. You'll notice that the meat's been cut here. That's so it doesn't bubble up and look weird while it's cooking. It'll cook evenly. It's big. Get a bite here with everything in it. If you can see that. Very good. It's a good, thick, filling sandwich. I can see why a coal miner would want to take that for lunch. Very good. Finished my sandwich. There's one more place that I want to go check out before I leave town. Let's go. The last stop that I wanted to make today was on Militia Hill. This was part of the information from the Coal Creek Miners Museum. Let's go check it out. This sign's talking about the breastworks that they dug for protection because the soldiers had higher ground, and they dug these trench systems to give them position and a little more safety from higher grounded soldiers. This sign talks about American chestnuts and how they cut them down so that they could open up the landscape and spot attackers. And then it goes on to talk about how there are no more American chestnuts because there was a fungus brought to the United States in 1904 from Chinese chestnuts. It says that the American Chestnut Foundation is developing a blight-resistant hybrid so that the American chestnut can come back and regain its crown as king of the forest. It's very windy here atop Militia Hill. Very pretty though. As I continue on the path, here is the cannon. There's a sign over here with information about it. Let's check it out. This sign talks about the cannon and its significance, and that soldiers would fire into the miners' nest encampment when they were attacked. It also said that they would shoot down into the town, cannon filled with mud. I've heard that they would even shoot rotting food and other disgusting things down onto the town to try to send a signal that they could be destroyed at any time. It says Welsh miners who left the area after convicts arrived in 1877 kept close ties with local miners. Coal Creek miners helped stop attempts to bring convicts to mines in southeast Kentucky in 1886. So Kentucky miners reciprocated in the fight against convict labor during the Coal Creek War. I wonder if any of that information there is in relation to Harlan County, Kentucky, Lynch, Kentucky. I've been to Portal 31. If you know or have any information, please put it in the comments below. This is on the National Register of Historical Places. Here is the view atop Militia Hill. I'll try to zoom in. See if you can get a bit of the town. It's not zooming very well. Let's check out this cannon some more. Boom. Very cool. Here in the parking area, they've got some more historical signs. This one's about the Coal Creek War itself. Interesting. That's going to conclude my day and adventure in Rocky Top. You'll always be home sweet home to me.